All right, welcome to SAG Essentials. Before we get started, I want to invite you to support us by clicking on the like and subscribe button. Right now, we're going to talk about processes. We're going to break this down in a simple way for everybody to understand. In fact, we're going to start with a definition. What is a process? A series of actions or steps taken in order to achieve a particular end. When we're talking about SOPs, standard operating procedures, we're talking about processes. It's the same. Now, SAG will provide a number of processes, all the processes for your business side. Not on the technical side, but we will facilitate the growth of that technical side. Now, lots of folks get turned off by the idea of having processes. They don't like it. They immediately start thinking about micromanaging. That's not what this is about. Whether we recognize it or not, we all follow processes. Sometimes they're just not consistent. The benefit to having processes when we put pen to paper is that we have some kind of consistency. We have consistency when we deliver our product or service. Okay. Now, you don't need to be turned off, but embrace this and understand with that consistency, you're going to be able to predict better. You're going to be able to forecast more accurately for your business. This is what's necessary for you to step out of the truck. If you want to transition out of the truck, you need to start implementing processes. You've got to start building these out, not only on the business side, but the technical side as well. Okay, this is the foundation that you're building for your business. If you look at Walmart, Walmart has a process for just about everything. Now, we don't need something as complex as Walmart, right? If you buy a gallon of milk, they have a flow chart that's going to show it's going to cue this, ding that, do all these, going to set in motion all these different set of actions to make sure that if milk is needed now, after your purchase, then that truck is coming with that milk. Okay. The business will run off these systems. That's what you need. That's what you want. If without these systems, without these processes, you're not going to be able to transition out of the truck. At some point, you want to transition into an administrative, then a managerial role, eventually as an absentee owner. Right? And some folks will say, well, no, I don't ever want to leave the job. I want to work myself into the ground. Okay, great. But I've never heard anybody say they don't want the freedom to choose. You may want to work your entire life, and that's great. That's fine. But sometimes you want to peel out. Okay? You want that freedom. You don't want to enslave a child to the business. Build a business of value, build a legacy, build something that has some kind of worth, right? So we're going to talk about a lot of different processes that you can apply to your business, just a few that will help you in your business. This is to give you an idea, to get the wheel spinning. Culture processes. Culture is huge in your business. You have to have a successful culture implemented in order to transition out of the truck, in order to become an absentee owner. We control our mission statement, our vision, our values, character hires, meetings, ongoing training, development, and management. This is how we control that culture. If you've got the right processes and systems in place, then you've got a business. Otherwise, you're reliant upon, the business is reliant upon your production, owner production. When you can step out and it can run on its own, then you have some true freedom there and you're not enslaved. Many of you, that means you're going to have to stay in the business for X amount of time. And that's fine. That's the majority of contractors, right? You have to grow until you reach that point. But these things are going to provide that foundation. Let's jump into an activity. Process building. What I want you to do is pick any task, preferably something that is a regular task that you perform. Okay. It could be swapping out a furnace. It doesn't matter. It could be simple or complex, but what I want you to do is write step by step the process for executing that task. As if I'm a greenhorn, somebody completely new to the business, has no idea what they're doing. So pause here and go ahead and execute the assignment and then play us back. All right. So now you have the process you just went through, and creating that process is what you need to do for all of your technical processes. Okay. For your repairs, for your install, troubleshooting, everything needs a process. I'll tell you this. I've got a client in Florida. He was telling me that he had 100 calls from one of his techs in one day. 100 calls. That's a lot. If we have a book of SOPs that can be referred back to, you're going to mitigate a lot of those calls. You don't want to be taking 100 calls in a day. You just don't. You also have, you see a note here, preferably a soft copy within the CRM. So your CRM is your field service software, your ServiceTitan, House Call Pro, Service Fusion, whoever you're using, ServiceMate. There are too many options out there with the software that's out there to be able to manage this. All of your tech should have access to these SOPs. It's not a difficult task, not a difficult assignment. Now, building it up can take some time. You're going to have to invest in writing out thoroughly those processes. Okay. Now, let's move on to another process, new business acquisition. Contact. Now, yours can be different, obviously, based on your model and your approach. Contact, lead generation, call inbound, outbound, dispatching for dollars, service call, preparing for the call, running the call part 1, call part 2, overcome objections and close business, ask for money up front, perform work producing a wow factor, close out call, post call, customer questionnaire, yard and equipment signage, creating a raving fan, cross-examine, office work, reconcile inventory, financial reporting, run reports, cross-examine. Now, without organization, you have no sustainability. Your employees must be led by your example. The entire team needs to understand their role within the organization. They need to understand what the company represents. If your employees are confused, then they're going to be less productive. If they're less productive, they won't be as happy, and your customers won't be as happy. You can see how this quickly affects your bottom line, right? We've all been to some business, could be a restaurant, any place of business where we had some poor service. Maybe the eatery got our order wrong. So we called over the manager, then we talked to the owner. We went through this process and it felt like they didn't really prioritize our experience. Or maybe it was because they were confused because their own processes are jacked up. And then we go online and leave a bad review, and we notice that it's a common complaint. We don't want those complaints. We want to have consistency. That kind of transparency is what customers enjoy. Then they will refer their friends, their family, their neighbors, because they can trust that consistency. They trust the processes. Everybody goes to reviews. Everybody. Now, here's another process: managing employees. And we'll talk about each of these. Set expectations, train and develop, evaluate performance, provide feedback, accountability, reward performance. Always open to take employee feedback. Okay, set expectations. How do we do that? Pre and post hire. Before they get hired, in the job description, they understand what the expectations are. at least in a general sense, right? We've got to be clear that we're going to be evaluating them by performance-based tasks, which is revenue generating, but also non-performance-based tasks, which is more attitude, cultural fit, and those kinds of things. That's from the very beginning. Employee handbook should also have that documented there. Employee offer, what's right in front of their face and they're going to sign. Goals are SMART, right? Explanation of KPI tracking. What is KPI? Key performance indicators. It's going to vary depending on their role. If they're a dispatch or if they're a tech or whoever they are, we're tracking different things, but we're tracking everything. Again, with all the software that's out there, there's no excuse for us not to get so granular that we can see with such specificity how our techs, how our employees in general are performing. We should be able to see everything. Communicate what happens when expectations are not met, when they're met or exceeded. Open door policy. All right, training and development. When does that happen? During scheduled daily meetings. Are we having daily meetings or weekly? However we're having them, we need to have training every time we're meeting. One-on-ones, being mindful of NPT. We jump in and don't waste time. How many times do we have an opportunity, or perhaps we have an hour before the next call and we start talking about maybe football? 15, 20 minutes turns into an hour. Sometimes if we don't have a call for 2 hours, it turns into a 2-hour detour. We've got to cut that off. Now, we can value the connection. We want that. There's value connecting with our employees, with the team, okay? We just have to be mindful to find a balance. The same reason my client in Florida has phone call after phone call from one guy, we can mitigate that the same through this. NPT, we've got dead time in the office. Hey, let's go through some role plays. Let's do some scenarios. You called me on this, and that. I want to role play it with you right now and see how you're going to respond. Or what else are you struggling with? Or this is something else that's common. Let's do this. Role playing is key. Maximizing your production during that potential NPT, non-productive time, is paramount. Establish a duration and keep true to it. ARP, we just talked about this. Always role play. Meetings, interrupt, downtime. If you're going on a ride along, role play with them. Don't just observe. Go through a coaching period. Compliment, encourage, and reward. Recognize strengths and weaknesses. Be authentic and vulnerable. Performance evaluation, KPI reporting. We talked about that. Team or department reviews, employee reviews, real-time 360. I love this approach. I'm not a big fan of semi-annual or annual evaluations. I know a lot of companies still do it, and that's fine. A more productive, effective way, a more effective approach is real-time 360. Let's address the issues now. If we're having performance issues, let's talk about them now. Or if somebody's performing well, let's address that, recognize it now. Let's reward that behavior, right? Okay, right along, scheduled and non-scheduled. Make it comfortable. It doesn't have to be a miserable, overbearing experience for the guys. You can have a good time on a ride along. They don't need to be feeling all uptight. It can be a pleasant experience. All right, feedback and accountability. Be authentic. Communicate your findings with the team and individual. Focus on both the areas in which they do well and where they can improve. Develop an improvement plan. Always praise, reward, and celebrate exceptional performances. Provide chances, but don't be afraid to put someone on PIP. All right, so all our performance-based meetings should be documented and filed away. What are we trying to accomplish? We're trying to accomplish compliance. We're trying to accomplish progression, right? Improvement. With that in mind, it's imperative that we always maintain a positive, authentic demeanor, and we're filing away all of that documentation. If someone is performing poorly, then they should expect a conversation. If someone is performing well, they should also expect a conversation. If someone is exemplifying behavior that we're trying to grow within our business in terms of culture, then we need to recognize that. I'll give you an example. My son, who's playing Fortnite, about 6 months ago, maybe 8 months ago, I overhear a conversation he has with another kid. He tells the kid, "Hey, I can't keep playing with you if you keep using those words." I didn't hear what the kid had said. I was in a meeting, but I overheard the conversation. I couldn't peel out at the moment, but as soon as I could, I went back there and gave him an attaboy. I said, "Hey, good job, buddy." And I gave him a little cash. If you see somebody that's exemplifying the values that you're trying to teach, the culture that you're trying to create, then reward that. It's your job to manage your team up. You've got to manage them up or out. There's no other direction. Don't allow any cancers to hang around. Manage up or out. All right. Character is a non-negotiable. Find out what these elements of a hire for you are. I suggest that all of these be part of it. Are they a cultural fit? Are they coachable? Attitude towards learning, ability to apply common mechanical sense. I know that's going to register with lots of you. Engaged. Now, also understand that we as owners and we as managers will make mistakes. So will everybody else that you hire. Your techs, your dispatchers, everybody's going to make a mistake, right? Such is life. Some of the areas that we need to be focusing on, being mindful of these regular issues that come up. Lacks good communicative skills, unwilling or unable to connect with employees, clueless of what the team is doing at any given time. If you call your service manager and ask them, "What is Michael doing right now?" They should be telling you what Michael is doing right now. It shouldn't be a mystery. They need to understand what the team is doing at any given moment. Inconsistent, doesn't apply processes. You need to be leading by example. And so do your managers. Training is lacking or non-existent. Poor motivator, quick to criticize but fails to recognize, makes a concerted effort to be hands-off. Fixed mindset keeps them closed to change or growth. Takes credit and shifts blame. Gossips about other team members, including company philosophy. Channels stress onto team. Does not care about helping others progress. Struggles to set and communicate expectations. Attempts to fly under the radar. It's going to be up to you to determine which of these issues they're struggling with and how they're struggling. If it's a lack of desire to change or what exactly is going on. We can all improve and get better, but they've got to be willing to embrace that change and embrace that improvement. And you've got to help manage them up into that progress, or you cut the cord and move on. Manage up or manage out, right? All of these processes work together with people. Okay. We lead by example. We're finishing this module up right now. The invite here is that you find 10 technical SOPs that you want to write out. And you write them out. Pretty simple. And then establish SMART goals for remaining technical SOPs. Establish a timeline. When you're going to accomplish, when you're going to execute the remaining technical SOPs that you have. Now, this is the end of this module. I ask you to support us by clicking the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next module.